The most important question before buying a camera is which camera to go for. So in this video we will see what are the things you need to take in consideration before buying a camera and what will be the best camera for your genre. But before moving further, intro. Before buying any camera, you should ask yourself the first question. If I am going to buy that camera for photography, for videography or for both? Because every camera is made for some special purpose. Some cameras are good for photography, some are good for videography and some are good for both. If you want to do only photography, then you should go for the cameras which are specialized for photography, because then you will get the best results that's possible in photography. And the same is for videography. So first let's talk about photography. Now in photography, there are many genres of photography: wildlife photography, landscape photography, sports photography and many more. If you are going for wildlife photography or sports photography or any type of photography which includes action-packed stuff in it, then you probably need a camera with higher FPS capability. If you don't know what FPS means in photography, then let me explain you in a very brief way. FPS is nothing but how much your camera is capable of taking number of pictures in 1 second. So let's take an example. Suppose your camera can shoot at 10 fps. So what does that mean? It means your camera can take 10 pictures in burst mode in 1 second. So it becomes important when it includes a lot of action-packed things in your photography. So wildlife photography or sports photography or any type of photography which includes a lot of action, you probably need a higher FPS capability of taking pictures. So cameras with higher than 10 fps or 12 fps are ideal for you. Another most important thing that you need in this genre of photography is the fast and good autofocus. Because when it comes to action-packed things, you can't rely on the manual focus, because you need to really get very pro to control your manual focus, and it sometimes gets really impossible to shoot in manual focus when there's a lot of action. In such scenarios, autofocus is the only thing you can rely on, and a camera with a bad autofocus can just ruin your purpose. So in this genre, cameras like Nikon D500 or Canon 1DX Mark II or 3 are the ideal cameras for you. Now let's talk about the other genres of photography. In landscape photography or architect photography, you will not need the higher FPS thing, and there will not be any action-packed things in your photo. So in that case, the things that are to be taken in consideration before buying a camera is a camera with a good low light performance, higher megapixel count, and a good dynamic range. And by good low light performance, I'm not talking about the aperture part. The aperture part depends upon the lens you are using, but we are discussing only about the camera body. But what does it mean by a good low light performance while taking into consideration only the camera body? It is nothing but how much a camera is capable of shooting at higher ISOs without actually gaining any grain or noise into the image. So let's take an example. A camera with bad low light performance may have grain even at 3200 ISO, and a camera with good low light performance may not have grain even at 12800 ISO. So at times there will be a situation where you will have to slide up the ISO, and in that case a good low light performance camera will serve your purpose. But what about the megapixel part? Why do you need to have higher megapixel while taking into consideration this genre of photography? This is because often landscape photographers crop the images to get the perfect frame of a landscape, and in this way, if you have a higher megapixel picture, you will not lose much information, because after cropping also it will have sufficient amount of detail in the pic. So this is the reason higher megapixel count really matters to landscape photographers. And when talking about the dynamic range capability of a camera, you don't want the camera to lose information in the shadows or in the highlights, especially in landscape photography and this type of photography where there is a high variation of dynamic range. So this is why the dynamic range also is very important in such genres. Now when talking about the portrait photography, the camera body will not matter to you that much. That's because you always need to have a good aperture lens, and you will focus on having a wide aperture, which depends on the lens and not the camera body. But yes, a good low light performance comes in the portrait photography as well. Now let's move into the videography part. Now the videography part can be divided into two subcategories, which is the YouTubers or vloggers and the filmmakers and cinematographers. So first, let's talk about the vloggers and YouTubers. So as a YouTuber or a vlogger, the things that should matter to you are flip out screen, a good autofocus system, and compact and lightweight of the camera. So suppose if you are a travel vlogger, you need a camera that is lightweight and it's compact so that you can travel with it anywhere and you don't have to carry much load with you anywhere you are going. And you always have to hold the camera like this, and holding it the whole day, your hand should be really strong if your camera is not a lightweight camera. So for this purpose, the mirrorless cameras are best according to me because they are very compact and lightweight when compared with the DSLRs, and they also have a better autofocus system when compared with the DSLRs. Now let's talk about the cinematographers and the filmmakers. The things that are important for these genres are 4K video, log profile, slow motion, high bitrate, and also the in-body stabilization. This is because you will never ever be able to make a cinematographer lose qualities in his videos for something else. He will never compromise in these things for any other things. High bitrate is important for a cinematographer to have the details in the footage. And also slow motion, that is higher FPS shooting in video, is also important. So a filmmaker will need a camera with shooting capability of 120 FPS at least. And when we are talking about the log profile, it's also a very important thing to the filmmakers, because log profile gives you higher dynamic range and it also gives you more flexibility in the post while color grading your footages. So cameras like Sony A7 Mark III, Canon EOS R, Canon EOS R5 are one of the best cameras in this genre for you. If you want to dedicatedly go for videography, then I would suggest to go for mirrorless cameras, because mirrorless cameras are more capable and deliver a better quality when compared with the DSLRs. Any high budget mirrorless camera will be very good, but it depends on you for what purpose you are using for. So guys, I hope now you are very cleared with the things you need to take into consideration before buying a camera in every genre possible. So make your decisions and I hope you choose the best camera for you. So guys, that's it for today's video. I hope the video was helpful for you. If you liked the video, then don't forget to hit the like button. If you're new to this channel, then don't forget to hit the subscribe button below down there. And having that said, see you soon in the next video. Till then, bye bye.